First time breeding our silkworms Bombyx Mori. This is my first time breeding these cool little moths. I originally bought the silkworms online and raised them up. Check out my other videos to see me raise them. I had an idea to breed these moths so I could photograph each step, but it wasn't as simple as I thought. Firstly, I put the cocoons into an insect net. And once they had hatched, you could see the difference between male and female. Females are bigger than the males. Females are less active, but the male is usually flapping his wings and moving around. I noticed the female's antenna color is lighter than the male's. I left them all in the net and let them do their thing. Next time I need to separate male and females into pairs, because now they were all together and the males were just going crazy. The males were trying to mate with females over and over. I did end up taking some of the females out to prevent this happening. Another problem I came across: some of the moths were struggling to get out of the cocoon, but I was able to free them safely next time. I will open the cocoon sooner. The moths paired really easy and stayed together like this for ages. It didn't take long for the females to start laying eggs. Another problem I found is because I left the silk cocoons in, some females laid the eggs on them, tangling the eggs in the silk. I moved all her eggs into a separate tub, but I couldn't separate the silk. Other females laid eggs on the paper towel, but when it came to moving them into a separate tube, he couldn't get the eggs off the paper towel. So I just moved the paper towel into a separate tub. Raising these moths is such great experience. I am not a breeder and all this is new to me. She has laid so many eggs. These moths can lay hundreds of eggs. I just hope they hatch. The moths don't live very long because they don't have mouth parts. They hatch, breed and die, which means they only live up to around 10 days. So I got my macro camera out. I wanted some cute photos. The moths are not able to fly, so it was easier to get pictures. While I was putting her back from her photo shoot, she started laying eggs on my finger. This is such a beautiful moment. To follow the journey with our moths, please hit subscribe. I have so many different moths and jumping spiders to show you. Once she had finished, I put her back and collected all the eggs. I put them all into a tub and put them into the fridge. I left them in there for around 2 months. I should have left them in longer. I genuinely thought I had left them in 3 months, not 2. But now to wait, I was worried I had taken them out too soon and ruined them. After waiting a few weeks and worrying these would not hatch, I had one hatch. And every few days I would have another hatch, but these are tiny. I made them some food using a mulberry chow powder mix. At first I added some food into the tub with the eggs. That was a huge mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. I ended up moving the caterpillars into a fresh tub, but these caterpillars are tiny. Now I had to keep these tiny caterpillars alive. At this point I had around 3 to care for. The eggs were hatching at a slow rate, one every so often. I was checking daily, but I noticed some had hatched and not survived. I used a paintbrush to move the hatched caterpillars into a small tub. This wasn't easy. My eyes are not good enough for this. So tiny. It was difficult to get the caterpillars out because the silk was all tangled. But then I had to figure out the consistency of the mulberry chow. If it's too wet, the worms wouldn't survive. Too dry and the food would be too hard for them to eat. And even though I was changing the food every day, some of the caterpillars didn't make it. You can see this one has grown. I had around 5 at this point. It's difficult because they're still so small, and the food was drying out so fast. This one is getting bigger now, but you can hardly see them, even though I was changing the food. Every day I found it drying out too fast. So I need to check on them even more regularly to make sure the food is okay. I am so excited to see these ones growing, but I still have loads yet to hatch. So I put the worms into a bigger tub. The problem is, I had too much ventilation. It was easier to refresh the food, but it dried out faster. I stopped using the mesh lid and used a normal one. This setup is so much easier, and now I had more worms hatching. I spread the food out and placed the silkworms on top. This one didn't make it for some reason. I put fresh food next to it and moved the worms over with a paintbrush. Then removed the old food with tweezers. I have around 13 and hopefully more to hatch soon. I need to keep the food fresh and make sure there isn't any condensation in the tub. They are prone to diseases, so I need to keep them clean and dry. That's all from today's video. I will keep you updated, so keep an eye on my future videos. Hopefully I can get these worms to cocoon stage.